Both mountains hold deep mythological significance, and the name Ida is thought to have originally meant something like wooded mountain or forest hill in ancient Anatolian or pre-Greek languages, possibly Luwian or Hittite. In Greek mythology, Mount Ida of Crete was the sacred birthplace of Zeus, where the first infant god was hidden and raised in a cave by nymphs. Where the infant god was hidden and raised in a cave by nymphs to protect him from his father Kronos. This mountain became a symbol of divine protection, nurturing, and connection to the gods. The Cretan Ida was closely tied to ancient Minoan and later Greek religious practices, particularly those involving mother goddesses like Rhea and Cybele. The other Mount Ida in the Troad near Troy was also sacred and is frequently mentioned in Homeric texts. It was the setting for many myths, including those concerning the judgment of Paris, which led to the Trojan War. This mountain was associated with Cybele, known as the Great Mother or Magna Martyr in Roman tradition, and was one of her central occult sites in Phrygia. In this text, Ida became linked not just to a geographical location, but to a divine feminine and ancient mother goddess worship. In later Latin and poetic traditions, Ida sometimes functions as a symbolic or literary reference to nature, divine motherhood, and sacred geography. The mountain's name became almost interchangeable with the goddess or the goddesses and rituals associated with it, reinforcing its spiritual weight. So the word Ida ultimately denotes more than just a mountain. It embodies the idea of sacred space, divine birth, motherly care, and the spiritual bridge between earth and deity in ancient Mediterranean religions. Its meanings evolved, but always maintained the aura of sacred femininity and mythic depth. Ostanis is a legendary figure often associated with ancient Persian wisdom and is frequently cited in Greco-Roman texts as one of the earliest magi or alchemists. Although there is no firm evidence that he was a real historical person, he came to represent the archetype of an Eastern sage, especially within the context of alchemy, astrology, and esoteric knowledge. The name Ostanis may have been a Greek rendering of a Persian or Median title or name, possibly used symbolically to denote a generic wise man from Persia. Ostanis appears in classical literature as a traveling magician, a purveyor of hidden knowledge. He was said to have accompanied the Persian king Xerxes during his invasion of Greece and was credited with introducing the Greeks to magical practices. Greek authors such as Pliny the Elder, Plutarch, and later alchemical writings writers referred to Astonis as a master of secret arts, particularly in the realms of transmutation, the preparation of elixirs in the spiritual dimensions of matter. The writings attributed to Astonis, often appearing centuries after his supposed lifetime, were pseudepigraphical, that is, written by later authors. He used his name to lend authority to their work. These texts were commonly found in Hellenistic Egypt and the broader Greco-Roman world, where they merged elements of Babylonian, Egyptian, and Persian religious and scientific traditions. The alchemical teachings connected to Astonis often emphasizes the purification of metals, the symbolic transformation of the soul, and the correspondence between cosmic and material processes. In these writings, Astonis is often portrayed as discussing the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary substance believed to transmute base metals into gold and grant immortality. He is also credited with describing the stages of alchemical work, which often included operations like calcination, dissolution, coagulation, and sublimation, each with both material and spiritual implications. These processes were not only physical, but also allegorical, symbolizing the journey of the soul through suffering, purification, enlightenment, and union with the divine. His teachings frequently intersected with the Hermetic tradition, particularly through the shared belief that alchemy was a divine science passed down from the gods to the earliest sages. In this light, Astonis was not merely a technician or sorcerer, but a priest, philosopher, whose understanding of the material world was deeply tied to metaphysical truths. His writings often warned that true mastery of alchemy required moral purity, inner discipline, and spiritual insight. Though no original text of Astonis survive from antiquity, many Arabic and Latin manuscripts of alchemy from the medieval period reference him, along other legendary figures like Hermes Trismegistus, Zosimus of Panopolis, and Democritus. These citations help form the backbone of medieval alchemical thought and contribute to the mystical aura surrounding Persian wisdom and European esotericism. Pliny the Elder, in his encyclopedic work Naturalis Hysteria, Natural History, refers to Astonis as one of the most significant early figures associated with the transmission of magical and alchemical knowledge from the East to the Greco-Roman world. Pliny presents Astonis not as a historical authority in the scientific sense, but rather as a legendary Persian magus whose teachings were seen as foundational to the spread of magical practices. Pliny mentions Astonis in several places, notably in Book 30 of Natural History, which deals with the subject of magic. According to Pliny, Astonis accompanied the Persian king Xerxes during his campaign against Greece and was responsible for the introduction of magic to the Greek world. This assertion reflects a Roman belief that much of what the Greeks knew about esoteric arts, such as astrology, sorcery, and early forms of alchemy, originated from Persian magi like Astonis. Pliny does not view Astonis or the magical arts he supposedly introduced with admiration. Rather, he treats magic with skepticism and moral disdain, considering it a corrupt and dangerous discipline that seduces even some of the greatest Greek minds. He describes Astonis as a figure whose writings led to a flood of magical literature and experimentation, which he believed ultimately degraded intellectual life by promoting superstition and fraud. Despite this negative view, Pliny acknowledges the widespread influence of Astonis. He notes that many subsequent writers of magic claim descent from Astonis's teachings, often attributing their works to him or using his name to lend credibility. This reflects Astonis's status in antiquity as a legendary authority, a kind of archetypal magus from the East whose name came to represent the hidden, arcane traditions of the ancient world. Plutarch, the Greek biographer and philosopher, writing in the late 1st and early 2nd century CE, mentions Astonis briefly in his works, primarily in passing references related to Persian magi and the broader transmission of esoteric knowledge from the East. Unlike Pliny the Elder, who directly addresses Astonis in his discussion on magic, Plutarch does not focus heavily on Astonis as a central figure.